Football's back, baby. And the morning slate delivered. We had nail biters every step of the way. I tried to go live because I was just so excited. YouTube said I'm too new. We're going to put this up as a regular video, no worries. First of all, we got to talk about the least exciting game, Dolphins-Colts. It's been a rough offseason for the Dolphins. Well, for a couple off seasons now. And the Colts just came out ready to play. Didn't see a lot from rookie Tyler Warren, but Danny Dimes looks good out there. They were running him a lot, which I found kind of interesting considering his injury history. But it doesn't look like they're going to shy away from that at all. And it worked out for him this time. The defense in particular looked good. Had that crazy interception by Latu. You can't imagine he's getting too many reps in pass coverage, but he had good instincts on that one. 33-8, rough one for the Dolphins. I don't really know how their year is going to turn out. You saw Tyreek pouting on the pouting on the sidelines, which is classic Tyreek. Lou Anarumo coming in, making it work with the, not an overly talented defensive roster for the Colts. I thought it was kind of a stinker of a game to watch as a viewer, but some exciting stuff going on for them. Steelers-Jets. First of all, it was chippy out there. These guys were fighting after every single tackle. Justin Fields comes out and absolutely looks like a different player. I was really impressed by his pocket presence specifically. We'd see him take off from clean pockets or just be a little over anxious to get back to running the ball. Not this game. I thought, if anything, he was a bit too conservative, especially on that last play where he could have ran it in if he was a little bit more decisive there. But I like it. I think he's been needing to stay in the pocket a bit longer, play a little bit more traditional quarterback. And we'll see if this is the renaissance of Justin Fields' career that we didn't see in Pittsburgh last year. Was also impressed by Aaron Rodgers. He's obviously not too mobile back there, but looked sharp. Looks like he was paying attention to what Arthur Smith was laying out for him. And as a Caleb Johnson owner, I was incredibly frustrated with the running back distributions. But we know that's how Arthur Smith likes it. He likes to piss off fantasy players. Garrett Wilson also had a pretty good game. Obviously, tough moment to drop that last pass. Jalen Ramsey laid a hit on him, though, and I guess that's why the Steelers decided to trade for him. It looks like he's fitting in pretty well to that defense. Also, everyone's talking about Breece Hall losing his job this offseason. Comes out, has like 20 carries, 100 yards, not quite as involved in the passing game. Still looks good to me. He's still Beast Hall as far as I'm concerned. All right, moving on to the rest of the slate. We can't talk about Steelers-Jets forever. Panthers-Jags is still happening because of the lightning delay. There's a lot of parallels with these teams as far as the quarterbacks sort of stock going up and down quite a bit over the last couple of years. I don't think Bryce Young has looked too good in this game so far. I'm hoping he'll be able to return to form. Other than that, they're still playing out there in Duval, so we'll have to see what the rest of the game gives us. Cardinals-Saints. Kyler Murray is one of the most frustrating football players in the world, man. He'll make an incredible play, use his legs to get out of the pocket, classic toddler with the remote energy. And then he just throws these weird passes, especially when you have players trying to get outside the numbers, but still kind of in that short area. It's just not in his skill set, and I think it's tough to run an offense without that in your back pocket. Got a little bit more Trey Benson this time, and I'm excited to see that. Been waiting on him. I was really excited for him to come in his rookie year. Obviously, that injury sort of took that away from us. Marvin Harrison looking a little bit sharper as well. But that came at the expense of Michael Wilson, who I think did not have a good game. I don't know if him and Kyler just have a lack of chemistry or what, but it was a little tough out there for him. Spencer Rattler is obviously, going to the Saints side. Spencer Rattler's obviously hasn't proven anything in this league, and I think we were all a little surprised to see him get the starting gig over Tyler Shuck, however you pronounce it, who they took in the second round this year. Interesting to see Rattler get the start. He played better than I would have expected, man. It wasn't setting the world on fire or anything, but he did what he had to do to win that game. He even delivers that awesome ball on third down to be the game winner, or at least the game tire. And his receiver doesn't manage to haul it in. Kind of a tough break for Spencer Rattler and Kellen Moore there. we'll see if things are able to improve going forward. I don't think anyone has super high expectations for the Saints this year. I think Spencer Rattler really is the main storyline. Good to see Chris Olave out there. Hopefully he can stay healthy and avoid future concussions. Oh, here we go. Giants Commanders. I think Jaden Daniels had his best game. He wasn't awful or anything like that, but I think we've seen him play with a little bit more poise and be a little bit more explosive before. The hype train for Bill Krosky married is got to be through the roof at this point. I mean, what more can he ask for, really, from a rookie's first game? He comes out there, gets the awesome touchdown, and maybe he really will be the RB1 for this team. RB1 on a high-scoring offense. Fantasy players, eat your hearts out if you don't have Bill Krosky-Merrick on your bench. I was really interested to see how Deebo Samuel was utilized coming into this game. I think he was much maligned after, maybe some down years with the Niners, mostly due to injury. Looked pretty sharp to me, man. He was running all over the place, playing that physical brand of football we've come to love Deebo Samuel for. As long as he can stay healthy this year, it seems like, even though they got a lot of criticism for the move this offseason, the Commanders have effectively bolstered their weapons. That really puts them in great shape in this conference, where if you think about it, in the NFC, there's not a lot of true contenders. I think we think about the AFC teams in that way more. The Bills, the Chiefs, and the Ravens, just to name a few. And we're kind of lacking that tier of team in the conference opposite them. Other than the Eagles, what other superstar rosters are there really? And so these Commanders might find themselves making a decent playoff push yet again. Also just love to see Zach Ertz get that score, man. He's 40 years old out there, still balling. You love to see it. For the Giants, man, I hate watching Russell Wilson play football, and I have for the last couple of years. It was tough. I don't even know if he had like a 50% completion rate. It was just spraying the ball, not making good decisions in the pocket, throwing hospital balls or inaccurate passes. But some of the successful plays were to Wan'Dale Robinson, who I think he actually caught more balls than Neighbors did this week. And it seems like Dable's a little bit more committed to getting him involved. Theo Johnson had a ton of drops as well. I saw at least 2 of them on the live copy, and you just can't have it, man. He's trying to really solidify himself as the starting tight end out there, and it wasn't a good start on that front. Didn't see this crazy pass rush that we were all sort of hoping to get from New York. I know Brian Burns got back there, but yeah, I don't know. You would have hoped to see a little bit more pressure on Jaden Daniels this game. Hopefully, as Abdul Carter gets going, we'll see that a little bit more for the Giants. You got to wonder if we're going to see Jackson Dart a little bit sooner than later with how Russell Wilson is looking out there, though it really was not impressive for him. I think last year with the Steelers, he obviously had that good run, but they have an offensive line of just frankly a different caliber, and I don't think Wilson's equipped to handle the pass rush the way that he used to be when he was younger and had a little bit more pepper in those legs. Bucks Falcons literally just wrapped up. This one was a true nail biter. Probably the most exciting game of the slate. Killer, absolute killer that Koo just can't get that last field goal for the win. Really devastating for Falcons fans, but I don't think too many of you are walking away from the game sad because Michael Penix is here. It was not an illusion, at least from what we've seen so far. The end of last year was not an illusion. He came right back into this, looked electric, throwing with a little bit more accuracy than I thought we saw last season from him too. Still has that love for Drake London. I think if Drake doesn't leave right at the end of the game there, and you have him or on that streak instead of Kaderil Hodge, maybe he catches it. I think Hodge just maybe just didn't see the ball. I don't know what was going on there, but it looked like he had an opportunity to make that play. Obviously, Drake London did drop 2 go-ahead touchdowns earlier in the game before he went out, but they were really high difficulty catches, and he was playing great all day. I think Drake London was awesome today. Bijan is Bijan. I think, not a lot to say there. been an excellent player this far throughout his career, and I think that will continue. Kyle Pitts actually performed today. We've been waiting on it. Saw him getting a little physical in there, throwing some really weird stiff arms at defenders. But I don't know. At this point with Kyle Pitts, we'll take what we can get. Can he, become more of a consistent starter for these guys? I don't think he's going to capitalize on that superstar potential that a lot of people thought he had coming to the league at this point. But I think he, had a decent game today. Falcons defense is still the Falcons defense. I kind of bet the whole house on adding those 2 pass rushers this offseason. I don't think we're getting rewarded for that quite yet. Obviously, the year has to progress a little bit, give these rookies a shot. But if we get to the end of the season and we're still talking about how the Atlanta Falcons can't get sacks or pressure because they don't have quality pass rushers after the huge swing they took in the draft this year, man, I fear for the Falcons front office at that point and for Falcons fans, because that would be just terrible. But who knows? Maybe Jalen Walker will get a little bit better as he develops throughout the year. As well as that other player they took on the edge. I can't remember his name all of a sudden. We've also got to talk about Rook Orohoho. Terrible, man. We love to see the hustle, but you cannot get a boneheaded penalty at the end of the game like that. It's just tough to see. And it's not a player who's been super exciting so far in his career either. But Falcons are going to be the Falcons, man. The battle for King of Shit Mountain continues. The Bucs barely pulled this one off. I felt like their passing attack was lacking a little bit without Liam Cohen there. Baker still slinging the ball around, really gunslinging it in this game. I think he's lucky to have not gotten a pick. I saw at least 2 passes that very spicy to say the least. Last year, fantasy breakout darling Bucky Irving, not an incredible game this time. I don't think the screen game was working out in the same way that it was last year for them. You saw them trying to get Rachaad White on a couple of those little Texas routes over the middle, and man, the Falcons were all over it on that front at least. I think their interior players, the linebacking core and the slot corner were playing really well when it came to taking those routes away. Emeka Ibuka, ladies and gentlemen, 2 tutties in his first performance. Only a couple targets, but man, he really made the most of them. I'm really excited to see what goes on for him. Just a buttoned-up player. Maybe no traits that stand out to make him as exciting as some of the other receivers we saw drafted ahead of him this year. But, man, while Chris Godwin is out recovering, I think they're going to be just fine relying on the rookie and Mike Evans to carry the passing attack. And when Chris Godwin comes back, now we're talking. Now we are talking. I did think it was kind of funny. Critical moments, you'd see the Falcons try and run up the middle right at Vita Vea, and Vita Vea was not having any of that. I would recommend not running at Vita Vea in critical situations. Just shout out for NFL coordinators out there. Bengals Browns. There's a couple things to mention here. I think big picture, we saw the Bengals opt to fire Lou Anarumo, bring in a new defensive coordinator, Al Golden, for this season. And Colts defense looked really great this week. Bengals defense, they technically did enough to win. But, boy, if we're beating the Browns by a 1-point margin, can we really expect this Bengals team to do better than they did last year? I mean, are we going to talk about missing the playoffs by 1 game again? At least they didn't drop this one, right? Like they had that stinker against New England last year. But it's hard to walk away from this optimistic about the Bengals defense, which was our only question, really. Just like last year, the year before, for this defense, for this team was just, is this defense going to be good enough to allow Joe Burrow and his awesome weapons to perform the way that they need to and win this team enough games to make noise in the playoffs? And I don't know. We'll still have to see it. It certainly doesn't look solved coming into week 1 here, but we know this over the years that when you get a new defensive coordinator and it takes a couple weeks for things to settle down and for everything to get figured out when it comes to assignments and playing time and roles. So there's still room for improvement here, but the early returns on this hiring are not really there. Joe Burrow was under siege. I don't think the offensive line for the Bengals played too great. Had that sequence from Myles Garrett, almost got 3 back-to-back sacks against them. Just brutal stuff. Chase Brown got a lot of carries. I don't think it's really his fault that the run blocking wasn't up to snuff this week, but man, as a Chase Brown owner, I was hoping for a little bit more. T. Higgins and Jamar Chase just not getting the ball very much. We saw Noah Fant get a little bit more. The Bengals continue to be obsessed with not throwing the ball at their top targets and getting someone with a tight end tag next to their name on the stat sheet instead. It's so frustrating to watch at times. Demetrius Knight Jr., a guy I really liked coming out back in the day, had a pretty solid name. Had a pretty solid game, man. I hope to see him continue to go out and put up stat lines like that, because, I mean, first of all, Demetrius Knight is just such a great game. Such a great name, but I thought he had a great performance, and it would go a long way for this defense to have someone steady in the middle there. Jordan Battle had a great game as well. I'm not, haven't gotten to review the 11 on 11 stuff yet, but off the live copy and watching that interception, I think he played well for these guys. When you go to the Browns, Joe Flacco looked like Joe Flacco. He's a veteran guy, very competent, very able to run the offense, not electric by any means. Had one drive where it just felt like it was Dylan Sampson or bust. I mean, he must have caught like 8 passes this game or something like that. It was a huge game for a rookie, and it seems like he might be the leader in this backfield while we're waiting for Judkins to get ready. I think they did finally sign him, so could mean things are going to look pretty good for this Browns running game, at least when you look at the running back room. Dylan Sampson, Jerome Ford, and Judkins. Even saw Rocket Sanders get into the end zone tonight, so might be a pretty impressive skill group when you start thinking about the depth they have at running back. Harold Fannin Jr., a lot of people really high on him coming out of the draft, myself included. Broke a ton of college records. He got involved out there. He made some good plays. Jerry Jeudy with several drops. I think that was tough to see. I think, Jeudy in an ideal world is your number 2 receiver, and we're seeing the pressure of having to take those number 1 reps over and over again for sure. I didn't see David Njoku show up that much. Kind of an afterthought after he had, a more productive year last time around, but what are you going to do? Obviously, Myles Garrett played great. Everyone's happy that they didn't trade him. Shout out to the Packers for getting Micah Parsons. We'll talk more about that at a later date. I think the Browns came out and gave the Bengals a pretty good game. I don't think anyone's expecting big things for them this year. I thought Carson Schwarzenegger played well, which is exciting. Newsome stepped up, with the other injuries they had in that secondary. It was a good game from them. I think, like I said, I don't think the Browns are really going anywhere this year, but they could be a little bit scrappier than we would have thought before we watched this game. And I worry for the Bengals defense. I don't know if it's going to be enough for this team to really matter. Raiders-Patriots, kind of a stinker, honestly. Wasn't a super exciting one, in my opinion. I think Geno was pretty nice in this one. Had that mistake with the interception, but, I mean, he was slinging it out there. Ashton Jeanty didn't look super impressive in his first game. Had that terrible 3rd or 4th down. It was 3rd or 4th down, really short distance. And he just trips. He just stumbles. Feet just come out right from underneath him, and they end up having to punt it. You could see on his face that he knew it was a bad one. Brock Bowers is a star. He had to leave this game. So, good energy out to Brock Bowers, absolute superstar. Lit the league on fire last year. Probably the best tight end in the league right now. And caught 5 balls for 100 yards and then got hurt. Raiders and I think football fans everywhere are really hoping to see him get back on the field healthy. Kobe Myers doing his thing. I thought he made a lot of good tackle breaks. I mean, the run after catch for this guy was there tonight. Combined with Trey Tucker, Jack Bash, Dante Thornton getting in the mix a little bit. These Raiders might prove to be pesky. If you're an AFC contender and you got the Raiders late in the year, you might not be as excited about that. It does not seem like this is a team that's going to roll over for you. Especially once they get that run game going with Genty, who I can only imagine will play better once he gets accustomed to NFL speed. Give it a week or two, maybe 3. I imagine by Halloween we'll be talking about Genty in a different light, more in line with what we thought of him when coming into the league. Michael Mayer's back, and he actually got some snaps and opportunities with Brock Bowers going out. I really like Michael Mayer. I know he stepped away for, I believe, some mental health or personal issues the other year. It's good to see him back. I can only hope that things continue to look up for this young man and he gets to have this NFL career that we all thought would be really bright. Patriots, thought Drake May, had some good moments. I think he continues to impress despite the surroundings. I didn't get a close look at Will Campbell, see how he performed today. Maybe once that tape comes out, I'll dive into that a little bit because I think there was a lot of noise around Will Campbell going into the draft here. Some unfounded and some very, very well deserved. So, I think I will dive into that one because I think that probably deserves a longer discussion once we get the tape back on that one. Henderson getting involved a little bit. It was a big day from Kayshon Boutte. I think we might finally be seeing something from this guy. I don't know if what has flipped in his head or what has been said behind closed doors to him from the coaches, but I hadn't seen him come out and put this sort of effort into a game. Not that I've been, grinding Patriots tape since he got drafted, but it was probably the best game of his career so far, I'd have to imagine. And for someone with that level of talent who just hadn't put it together yet, I think as a Patriots fan, you got to be excited about these young weapons. Also, Stephon Diggs getting out there and playing a little bit. Doesn't look like the player he was previously in his career, even the player he was with the Houston Texans last year. But a veteran presence in that receiver room. He hit the over on targets for my parlay this week, so I got to shout him out on that front at the very least. Harold Landry getting a ton of pressure, which you got to be excited about. And I don't think overall it was like a standout performance from the defense. And hoping that this Patriots defense gets better has been an annual ritual. Seems like since Belichick left at the very least, and if not a year or two before that. But as a Patriots fan, if you're walking away from this, I think there's a little bit more positivity than negativity, and there's reason to be excited about the future. Same for the Raiders. I think both these teams are going to be, like I said, pesky teams to see on your schedule late in the year. Kind of trying to wrap up here. I feel like I'm missing a game. Is that the whole morning slate? Did we do it? I think we did it. Obviously, we're just waiting for Panthers Jags to wrap up. Looks like the Jags are putting the beating down on the Panthers a little bit. So I might hop on here later and talk about the Sunday night game and what goes on this afternoon stretch. I think those are some exciting games and some higher quality teams than we saw this morning. But Red Zone did not disappoint this year. I know there was a lot made about the advertisements. It really wasn't that intrusive in my opinion. Obviously, I wish there'd be some way to watch commercial-free football. But the NFL's here to make their money, guys. Nothing we can do about it. I don't think Red Zone's dead, basically. It was a super exciting morning. Week 1 delivered. Football's back. And, man, that's all I have to say about the morning slate. Thanks for watching. This is DWH Football.